My mother-in-law leaned close enough for me to smell her rose perfume and whispered, "Those medals won't help you today." Then my husband asked the judge to take my daughter away from me. It was 9:17 on a wet Monday morning in downtown Dayton, Ohio. Rain streaked the courthouse windows, and shoes squeaked against the tile outside courtroom 4B. Daniel sat beside his attorney in a navy suit I had bought him for our 15th anniversary. His tie was loosened, his eyes red. His mother, Darlene, sat directly behind him in a cream jacket and pearls, smiling like she'd already picked out my grave marker. I wore my army dress uniform because I'd not come straight from a reserve command review at Wright-Patterson. My attorney, Caroline Reyes, had told me firmly not to change. "You're not hiding who you are," she said. "Not for them." Daniel's lawyer told Judge Helen Mercer I was emotionally unstable, financially reckless, and unsafe around our 13-year-old daughter, Emily. Daniel took the stand. "Combat changed her," he said. "She isn't the woman she used to be." For half a second, I almost believed him. I had changed. I slept lightly, checked the locks twice, flinched at loud bangs. Some nights I sat in the garage with the engine off so Emily wouldn't hear me crying. But changed wasn't the same as dangerous. Daniel claimed I'd frightened Emily while holding a loaded handgun in our kitchen. His lawyer put up a photo, my service pistol, on the counter beside a coffee mug. That gun had been locked in my travel case before I left for training. Caroline touched my wrist under the table. "Don't react," she whispered. Daniel looked at the judge. "I'm asking for emergency custody, exclusive use of the house, and temporary control of Rebecca's financial accounts until the court can determine whether she's competent." There it was. Not just my daughter, not just the house, the money. $3. $2 million from a federal settlement tied to the convoy explosion that had ended my Army career. Darlene murmured behind him, "Those medals won't help you today." Judge Mercer heard her and said nothing. After nearly 2 hours, the ruling came. I had to leave my own home for 10 days while the allegations were investigated, and my visits with Emily would be supervised. Outside, Darlene said, "Look on the bright side, Rebecca. Hotel breakfasts are free." Then my phone buzzed, an email from the bank. Someone had tried to borrow $640,000 against my house using a signature I'd never written. The hotel near Wright-Patterson wasn't home. My whole life fit in one suitcase and a framed photo of Emily. Caroline met me at a diner the next morning. "Daniel isn't just trying to divorce you," she said. "He's trying to prove you're legally incompetent so he can control the settlement." I remembered all the paperwork he'd had me sign over the past year, half read. She was scheduling an independent psychological evaluation. My records, years of learning that asking for help wasn't weakness, were being turned into weapons. "Being treated for trauma doesn't make someone an unfit mother," Caroline said. 3 days later, I saw Emily at a Panera, a supervisor pretending to read nearby. She barely touched her food. "Dad said you pointed a gun at him." My stomach dropped. He showed me a picture. I explained the pistol had been locked away. She studied my face, confused but listening, and when our hour ended, she hugged me. Barely 2 seconds, but enough. That afternoon, Caroline called. A quitclaim deed had transferred part of my house to Daniel. My forged signature was convincing, except I'd been at training the day it was supposedly signed. Daniel hadn't just decided to leave. He'd been planning this for months. Caroline and I pulled the deed from the recorder's office. My signature, curl and all, sat there like I'd written it myself. "This wasn't done by an amateur," she said, and began asking who knew my signature, who handled my paperwork, who had access to my records. Every answer was Daniel. The real estate agent named in the documents told us Daniel had said I didn't like handling paperwork, because combat had affected my memory and produced a forged power of attorney. "Fake documents leave real trails," Caroline said. "At the grocery store, my old neighbor Linda mentioned she'd heard I was struggling. Daniel's story was already spreading through the neighborhood. I told her I was getting a lawyer, and that Daniel should get one too. Emily told me her grandmother was already redecorating my old room into Daniel's office. They weren't hoping to win. They believed they already had." Then Caroline called with news. The kitchen video was edited from 3 recordings. The missing footage showed me repeatedly asking Daniel to move away from the door. At his deposition, Daniel painted me as forgetful, paranoid, irrational, twisting my shoulder pain appointments, a break-in scare, and storm preparations into evidence of instability. He described a restaurant incident where I'd flinched at dropped dishes, leaving out that I'd apologized and scheduled therapy after. Then Darlene testified I was cold and unmaternal. Some women come home from war, others just bring the war home with them. Caroline asked how she knew details from my private therapy. Daniel told me. Did Rebecca give permission? I assume so. You assume? No further questions. Then Dr. Cho called. Someone had filed a complaint, accusing him of falsifying my treatment records. Daniel wasn't just attacking me. He was destroying everyone who stood beside me. Caroline found recurring charges on Daniel's credit card. Same restaurant, same hotel, same weekends. Photos showed a woman named Tessa Grant, and one stopped me cold. Her in my kitchen, holding the mug Emily gave me for Veterans Day. He'd brought her into my home while I was at training. Emily told me that Daniel and Darlene kept mentioning Operation Clean Sweep, fighting about money and deadlines, and that Darlene had coached her to say I scared her. Then Emily said she'd found an old iPad in Daniel's, so that automatically recorded and synced to his phone. Voice recordings existed. She couldn't send them. He checked her phone. My daughter had become the case's most important witness, and I was terrified of what it might cost her. Through the guardian ad litem, Emily handed over the iPad. A forensic specialist played the recording. Daniel and Darlene planning to make me look unstable so the money follows, coaching Emily on what to say, discussing a future with Tessa funded by my $2 million. Emails confirmed a lake house budget to be paid after conservatorship is approved, and one from Tessa, she was pregnant, due in March. Daniel wasn't just leaving me, he was financing a new family with mine. An emergency motion accused me of pushing Emily to spy. Judge Mercer denied it, but warned both sides that a child shouldn't carry secrets. Forensic accountant Leonard Price then traced $186,000 of the home equity loan, some to Darlene for reading services, the rest toward a lake house deposit near Indian Lake. One evening I followed Daniel to a restaurant and saw him kiss Tessa, then saw Emily in the backseat of his SUV, headphones on, alone. My anger dissolved into grief. I drove away, crying not over the affair, but over what revenge was doing to me. The psychological evaluation cleared me, showing no impairment and capacity to parent. The hospital confirmed someone had accessed my patient portal, using a login tied to Daniel's company. Leonard traced the forged power of attorney to a company owned by Darlene's nephew, who had a prior conviction for loan fraud. Then Darlene accidentally texted her church prayer group instead of Daniel. Remember, Rebecca threatened us in June, not July. We all need the same story. Tessa asked to meet Caroline. She hadn't known about the custody case. Daniel had lied to her too, and refused to lie about the affair or the pregnancy. Daniel's attorney withdrew from the case. At the final hearing in November, Daniel repeated his story, but it no longer held. Caroline confronted Darlene with a second leaked text. Once Daniel controls the settlement, Rebecca can spend the rest of her life saluting a mailbox. Leonard laid out every dollar of the missing $186,000. The forensics expert showed the doctored kitchen video and the real timeline of the gun photo. Dr. Feldman testified my symptoms didn't impair my parenting or judgment, and Caroline handed the judge my full service record. Judge Mercer read it in silence, then looked at Daniel and Darlene. Do either of you actually know who your wife really is? This record doesn't describe a woman who broke under pressure. It describes someone who repeatedly ran toward danger to save other people. She ruled, primary custody to me, supervised visitation for Daniel, pending classes and evaluation, the house, and full $2 million remained mine, and evidence of forgery and fraud would go to the authorities. Darlene erupted and was silenced by the bailiff. When she muttered, "I was only trying to protect my family," Judge Mercer answered, "Concerned grandmothers don't submit false evidence or coach children to lie." Outside, Daniel caught up with me. Tessa had left him. The lake house was gone. Can we fix any of this? I thought of 17 years of marriage, of Emily's fear, of every lie. You didn't lose me today, Daniel, I said. You lost me the day you decided my injuries were something you could profit from. Emily took my hand, and we walked away together. Winning didn't erase what happened. It just let me start rebuilding. Daniel eventually took a plea deal on fraud charges, paid restitution, and lost his job. Darlene sold her condo and moved in with a cousin near Indianapolis, still insisting quietly that she'd been misunderstood. My reserve commander called, my review was cleared, I finished my service on my own terms, and retired with the dignity I'd hoped for, and used part of the settlement to quietly fund a nonprofit helping veterans facing financial abuse. One rainy morning, Emily found my medals and asked why I didn't display them. They remind me of the people I served with, I said. She smiled. I don't need them on a wall. I already know what they mean. She hugged me, longer than any hug from those painful supervised weeks, long enough for both of us to know we'd be okay. Looking back, the real victory wasn't revenge. It was refusing to let someone else's lies define me. Pain changed me, but being changed isn't the same as being broken. If someone has ever used your hardest season against you, remember, their version of you doesn't have to become your future.